What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Pixels podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. As always, we're your hosts. That's Blake. I'm Will. And today we're here to talk a little Critical Role.
Ooh, maybe.
It's okay, let me just explain what happened in my brain. I was going to say it's been a while, so then I wanted to go, it's been a while. But in my brain, it preloaded up Bare Naked Ladies. It's been... And so I was trying to like somehow combine those.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been a while.
Yeah. It's nice to have some, back to the awkward intros.
Yeah. I've missed these.
Yeah. How are you, man?
I'm good, dude. We got a little bit of I don't know if I'm assuming it's the same where you are, but a little bit of a cloudy, kind of dreary morning.
Yeah.
We got a little thunderstorm last night.
Yeah.
Which is my vibe. So I'm still, feeling it this morning. Got my coffee. I'm doing good, man.
You had a little birthday last week.
Had a little birthday last week, yeah.
36 years young.
I know, it's crazy.
So now you're over the halfway point of 35. So you're basically 40.
You're gonna say like to death. Yeah, true. I didn't even really think about that. Closer to the old 40s and 30s. That's weird.
Yeah.
But I've never been one to really care. Like I know some people like really like hate getting older, but to me, I literally couldn't. It makes no difference. It's just a number.
Yeah.
What about you? I'm not trying to call you out.
I tend to get sad isn't the right word, but like I think I would have accomplished more at this point in my life.
Stop.
And I'm just saying, like, not to get like super weird and like crazy about it, but like, I think it's hard to have this conversation without sounding weird about it. But I think what I envisioned as a kid was like you get older and then you like get a job, and then like once you get into your 20s and you like work that job, by the time you're 30, you're like rich. And then like you're 30, mid 30, late 30s, yeah. You're kind of like cooling off a little bit, doing vacations, and that has definitely not been my experience.
Well, yeah, that's like the death of the American dream. So like I'm with you there. I think that's just kind of, I mean, this isn't what this podcast is about, but I think that's just kind of like the ideals the previous generation bestowed upon us, and then they were like,
yeah.
Also, in the meantime, we're going to make that impossible by destroying everything as we go.
So yeah, I don't think like, oh, I'm so old. I more think like, oh man, like I feel I'd say like 10 years ago, I was like, oh, I have plenty of time to do anything. I'd say nowadays I'm more like, okay, what do I really want to accomplish over like the next set of years? And that's why I'm quitting the show. So no, I'm just kidding.
we thought this would be an appropriate way to tell you guys.
So anyway, there's my, hey, Pixel is, little.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say.
Crisis for the pod.
I fully understand what you're saying, but you can still accomplish anything, my friend. I don't think you can't just because you're slightly older,
All right.
But we're here not to talk about existential crises. We're here to talk about Critical Role. So
good on you with the plural of crisis. By the way,
I was panicking as I was approaching that word in the sentence, and I went with it.
It was good. I was like, wow, this guy's. One of the biggest mistakes I ever made with my wife was she did something like that, and I go, you seem really smart. And she was like, I seem smart? And I was like, oof, it's one of those situations where they say it back to you and you don't know if you should say double down and be like yes, or if you should say no.
Yeah.
So you kind of like wait. But anyhow.
Those are
little
trap
door.
Yeah,
so doing a little Critical Role today. I've had the flu, so that's why we're a little bit. We actually watched the app. I watched it live, and I think you watched it shortly after, but I've had the flu for today's actually my first day back to work. I've never had the flu before.
I should have. Wait, you've never had the flu before?
I have never had the flu before.
That's crazy. So obviously the flu's never good, but like,
yeah, it was worse than COVID for me. It like really knocked me out pretty bad. So yeah. But
glad to see you feeling like 100% now, or just
no, I feel pretty like wiped still, but like I feel like I can actually like do stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah,
anybody
so that's
else?
why we're a little bit not yet. Hopefully no one will be. At this point, I don't think so. But
that's good.
Anyway, that's why we're a little delayed, and also we canceled our stream last Friday. Other announcements. We got Worlds Beyond coming, is it Tuesday? A week from today? Or is it the Tuesday after?
I was going to ask you because I think it's soon, but they actually put out something today. Did you see that?
I did. I haven't checked it out, but
I haven't checked it out either, but
yeah.
It's for anyone curious, it's a one shot, but it takes place in Umora, which I'm really like interested to check out just to see what kind of I'm sure also, it's not going to be like a big lore dump, but it'll be interesting to see kind of some world building.
I need to ask you people listening who are really super smart, if you've seen any like the video clips from Worlds Beyond, what's up with the big microphones? Because have you seen this?
Wait, I don't know if I know what you're talking about.
So there's been some images and like lately there's been even video of like their recording room, which is a lot more like smaller and intimate than I realized.
Like on Instagram and stuff? Is that what you're talking
about?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so Brennan, there was a still of an image. There's something he was recording of him like practicing something, and it's like a Shure microphone, like it's just a common microphone with this massive
like pop filter.
Not a pop filter, but kind of like that, like a sleeve put over it. I mean, when I say massive, I mean like this, but ridiculous, like a pineapple. And there was a lot of memes about it. Well, then yesterday they posted a clip from something. Excuse me. And the camera panned, and Abria was there. She also had it on her microphone. I've been in like the podcasting world for 5 years. I've done like podcast production, all that stuff. I have never seen this before. I don't know what it is. It's clearly something related to like, eliminating ambient noise, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm also it's very meme worthy, but I'm also very curious, like, what the heck is this thing? You have to check it out.
I haven't seen any of those clips, so I definitely need to. That sounds hilarious though.
Well, so Worlds Beyond, I think either Tuesday or the following Tuesday. We have our stream Friday. And then for you guys listening, if you love D&D, a week from this coming Friday, we have a one-shot we are hosting in the Discord. So if you love D&D, if you love Critical Role or Worlds Beyond, you never played D&D, and you want to check out a live game, come to our Discord. It'll be Friday, a week from Friday, on the I don't know what day it is, actually. The 12th, I think, at 7 p.m. Central Time. I'll be DMing. Will's going to be in it. And then we have a handful of people from our Discord, some subscribers to the channel who are also going to be in that session too. So pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah. I still need to make my character.
Yeah.
Trying to decide.
Well. It's scary thinking about playing with people I've never met before. I
know. Yeah.
I know this wouldn't happen, but the only thing that's actually scary about it is like someone being in the group who's like a huge racist or something. And then it being live and being like, how do I want to deal with this person? I don't think, I know that would not happen. And I've chatted with everyone who's in the group, so I know that's not the case. But that's like, those like extreme fears you have, like public speaking, like, oh, I have this speech I have to give. What if my pants fall down? Like it's not going to happen, but
right. I understand the fear, but I think we're good. I think hopefully our demographic doesn't have highly racist people.
Yeah.
I would hope,
So anyhow, well, any other announcements?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, if you haven't checked out our channel before, we love to do a little bit of a recap before we dive into our episode discussion. If you're watching just the recap, we do pull this out as a separate video and put it on YouTube. So if you're watching just that, there's actually a link in the episode description that'll give you the full episode Theorycraft deep dive. Also, we want to know what you thought about this was an amazing episode, so we want to know what you thought about it as well. So you can also click that link and leave a comment as well. But having said that, we're going to dive into this episode. I don't know the name. Episode 89.
Yeah.
Divisive portents.
Yes.
I guess, right?
I wrote potence, but portents might make more sense.
I don't know which one it actually is. It's a P word.
It's one of those.
And what I'll say is we typically make these recaps fairly brief. However, this first half was incredibly dense.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try my best to chat through as many of the things that happen. This first half takes place primarily in the secret hideout with the Volition and its leader, Rashina. And it's essentially a lore dump on what's been happening on Ruidus for the last 1,000 years. We find out immediately that Rashina is the leader of the Volition. She's the Golden Hammer. It's a title that was bestowed to her after her father was betrayed and killed. And she has essentially been leading this secret group ever since, in opposition of the Imperium. She quickly introduces the party to her right-hand man, one Gaz Tomo, who is this amazing character where Matt channels his inner Kronk from Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah.
And it is this juggernaut who, like Kronk has squirrels, this one has these mycete, these little fungus minions that follow it around. Gaz mentions there are hundreds of thousands of fungus on Ruidus. But as they try to speak with him telepathically, they realize they're not able to. And Rashina steps in and mentions that not everyone has a telepathic connection. In fact, over the years, society has sort of been distinctly separated into different groups by the power of the Weave Mind, gifting some psychic powers, keeping some without those powers as a form of control. So the party then asks, tell us about the Weave Mind. They support what's called the Dominion of Kruth, which we'll get back to in a second. And the Weave Mind can project their minds literally all over Ruidus to anybody who's been marked since birth. And this marking is an actual bioorganic chip that's been implanted into every Ray Lauren's mind. It's very Matrix, and like how the agents can take the form of any person in the Matrix, kind of like that. They are five. The Weave Mind are 5 individuals. They're powerful and ancient. They're so powerful that Rashina says that they would turn Bell's Hells into paste just from their encounter with them. And they live inside of this citadel that's built within the central prime pillar of glass within the city. And this citadel is called the Arx Creonum. This is where children are brought to be marked and implanted. Matt calls it sort of like a city within a city. And beneath the Arx Creonum is where excavations have been happening, presumably to wake Predathos. Rashina, however, has had her device removed, and she points to a scar on the back of her head. And presumably everyone within the Volition has had these devices removed. They ask more about the Weave Mind, what was there before the Weave Mind? And Rashina mentions that at 4 points in history, civilization on Ruidus has been entirely reset. Kravirus has been rebuilt twice, that they know of, and that when that's happened, only the central pillar has remained. The party asks, well, what's the deal with Predathos? Do people worship Predathos? And Rashina says, actually, people on Ruidus are not religious. They don't see Predathos as an active deity, and seemingly Predathos only speaks to the Weave Mind themselves. And there's this interesting conversation with Imogen about asking, well, why does Predathos seem so connected to people on Exandria and not his own people, to which Rashina doesn't really have much of an answer. They ask more about the history of Ruidus, and Rashina says that before the Weave Mind, there was the Collective, which was a group of societies all over Ruidus. But then there was this event called the Crush that forced all societies to disband and come together under the power of the Imperium. This Crush was one example of these massive earthquakes that typically have happened every few years, but in the previous several months, it's been happening more and more often. Now they happen about once a week. The crush specifically was one of these earthquakes that happened 3 centuries ago. It was so strong that it actually destroyed most of the surface of Ruidus along with many of its cities. The Weave Mind themselves, I mentioned how Rashina said that together they're kind of unstoppable, and there's very much like a Palpatine-esque form of like, they have a bunch of like biological people who are like keeping them alive, and doing things like that. Chet asks about if they can get one of these implants, presumably to use the harness on it. And then they ask, like, what is this Dominion of Kruth that you mentioned? And they find out the Dominion of Kruth is sort of like if the Weave Mind is like the spiritual center of the Imperium, the Dominion of Kruth are the inspirational center. They're the military, like, hoorah forces in the city. And they are run by the Sunder King, Ozo Kruth. And his, like, immediate band is called The Will. They have a psychic connection to the beasts of the land, and Matt mentions including the Slither Lords, which they're just like, oh my gosh, what? And again, so the Weave Mind are like the spiritual leaders. Ozo and his group are like the center of strength on the city. There's also another group called the Tectus, and Rashina calls them sort of like the bloodstream between the Weave Mind and then like society itself and like societal norms. They're kind of like the street level society of the city, and they have someone on the inside, seemingly an ace up their sleeve. They don't know what the Ruby Vanguard is doing, but they have seen the Ruby Vanguard bringing things from Exandria to beneath the Citadel to the Prime Pillar of Glass, doing this kind of excavation. They also know that since the Vanguard have arrived, there's been lots of days of celebrations, festivals, jovial music, all of this stuff hyping up what's been called the Blue Promise, seemingly people who are in league with the Weave Mind being able to one day go to Exandria. Rashina mentions that kind of gives an insight as to why people may not be all in on this plan because of sort of like the pain of comparison. Like, yes, this world is harsh. Yes, all we know is dust here. But there's something sort of disingenuous about just wanting what someone else has, I guess. Laudna also, by the way, offers to share like, hey, we think we know how you all came to be. Like, we actually have historical records. Do you want to know? And Rashina says, hey, actually, I think we're good. Maybe later. So kind of interesting that they decline.
Yeah.
But having said that, they moved them into like what the next steps are. And they said, hey, we have really 2 main missions that you can be a part of. And there's also a couple things on the side you can do as well. Mission 1, if they're up for it, is a detonation in the excavation site beneath the Prime Pillar to slow whatever the Ruby Vanguard's plan is. Mission 2 is to recover some imprisoned allies who were taken. And then there is like this side mission, Mission 3, that the party doesn't get too attracted to, which is to basically rescue this person named Everoa. So Mission 1 is detonating this detonation in the excavation site. Rashina mentions that the excavation site is led by Sorrow Lord Zethuda, who's Fern's dad, and that they also did a previous detonation where the entire detonation team were killed except for one survivor, who is now leading the second detonation mission. That survivor is, of course, Ira Wendigoth, which the party's like, kind of interesting that you were the only survivor.
Yeah.
So that's one, and Ira pops in. They're like, hey, Ira, it's good to see you, kind of. The second mission, this rescue operation, they get introduced to this Dragonborn who has come and joined the Volition from Exandria. This Dragonborn's name is Visodin Amorai, I think. And this Dragonborn works for Bane, the Betrayer God, also known as the Strife Emperor. And some of her friends have been taken, and they want to go get those friends back. The party also implies that potentially maybe Planesrider Wrenn might also be in this prison. And the mission is essentially to go to the base of the Arx Creonum, to the Glasshold garrison, to free Visodin Amorai their friends and potentially Planesrider Wrenn. And then there's also this side mission of Everoa, who was a Boromotive scientist who was working, giving them information from the inside as a spy, and had been working in the Colloquium of Candescence, working on some like major device or weapon for Ludinus, and then one day vanished. They want to know what happened to them as well. But again, the party, they're not as interested in that mission. So the party begins chatting about what should we do? What mission should we go on? And they decide that they should split up. But as they're having this conversation, they realize that there's actually a conversation happening privately between Gaz and Rashina. And in doing Detect Thoughts, they realize there's a fourth mission, an assassination mission. And Imogen's like, well, who are you all assassinating? And they realize that it is Imogen's mom, Liliana, who they plan to assassinate the very next day. The party's given a place to stay for the night, and there is some other like small dialogue that happens. Ashen gets greater restoration from FCG to cure his exhaustion, and ultimately Imogen decides to reach out to Liliana one last time to see if she can help prevent this assassination from happening. And good gracious, let's go to break, please, and then you can take it from there.
I know, man. Great job. There was so much in that first half. So well done. All right. So we pick up in the second half, basically with this dream where Imogen is trying to contact her mother, and she is successful in doing so. So they have this conversation and basically says, or Liliana, says that Imogen is stubborn. The more she tried to push her away, the more Imogen ended up running straight toward her. But Liliana says, but I guess it doesn't matter much now because it won't be much longer. We won't have anything to worry about anymore. And Imogen asks, how are you like making a difference on the inside? And she says that, well, Ludinus listens to me and I've been able to pull him back from the edge a few times. If I wasn't here, like who knows what he would have done by now. And Imogen asks, well, what if we could just straight up stop him? And Liliana says, it's so much bigger than that now. And Imogen's like, well, why are you doing this? Are you doing this because of Ludinus or like because of Predathos? And she says she's doing it because she doesn't have a choice. It's going to happen no matter what. And she just wants Imogen to be free of it. And Imogen says, you just like should run away. Just like get out of there. And Liliana says she can't because there are people here that rely on her, including children. And Imogen says, well, what if we take out Ludinus? And Liliana says, again, like that's only going to delay the inevitable, not prevent it. Like it's bigger than that now. And Imogen says, well, if Predathos does get out, then a lot of people are going to die. Like, and you're okay with that? And Liliana says, why do you think anyone will die? And Imogen says, well, if he gets out, then the gods are going to die. And who do you think the gods protect? Like us, humans. And Liliana says, well, the gods are tyrants and only protect those who follow them. And they kind of have a little bit of a back and forth about this. And Imogen finally just insists like, well, I'm not running away. Like we're both kind of moving forward at this point and we're on opposite sides of this fight. And Liliana says, well, I don't think we're on opposite sides. We just have different methods of accomplishing what we're trying to. Imogen again tells her like, you should really run away. And then basically the dream ends. Imogen then kind of, fills in everybody else on what just happened and says that she doesn't think she can change her mom's mind, but that she and they shouldn't go on the mission to assassinate her. So the party then discussed their plans, thinking, what mission should we go on? There's a little bit more of God talk, typical God talk we've had the whole campaign. And, Imogen says that Liliana doesn't like the gods, thinks they're bad. So what do we do about this? And they basically decide which mission they should go on. Basically boiling it down to, should it be the bomb mission with Ira, the search for that missing spy, or the rescue mission to go help those prisoners? And Fern basically during this wants to go look for Ira and talk to him. And she goes and finds him in a main chamber, kind of working on some sort of device. And she says, okay, what's your plan for this mission? And he says, I'm going to take a team. We're going to stealth past the guards, set the bomb, leave, blow it up, easy peasy. And Fern asks, well, what's your beef with my dad, Sorrow Lord Zethutha? And he says he's just been dealing with people like her dad forever, self-absorbed, pompous, and he just hates people like that. He also hates Ludinus for stealing his stuff, and he seems to be very upset that Ludinus is on this path to like alter history, and Ira's not going to get any credit for like his role in it. Fern then asks, well, do you know why my dad like made me a Ruidus born? And Ira says, well, I can't give you any specifics, but the Vanguard just wanted as many Ruidus borns as possible in order to then have as many exaltants as possible. Because exaltants are so rare, you know, the more Ruidus born in general you have, the more exaltants you're going to have. And he says that Zasuda was probably disappointed in Fern for not being an exaltant. And then Fern's like, well, is there anything else you think I should know about him in case we run into him? And Ira is excited, you know, thinking that means Fern's going to come with him. And he's like, ooh, a family reunion. And Fern's like, no, I just want to steal his little dragon mount. And the conversation basically ends there, and Fern heads back to everybody else. More discussion on what mission they should go on. And Aurum personally wants to go try to rescue that spy, Ivaroa. But they decide they need more information in general. And they can see that like people are starting to gather about. So the party heads to go see what everyone's gathering for. But Imogen and Laudna hang back to have a little chat. And this was, you know, one of the best parts of the episode. We got some great RP between our two witches here. And they talk about Delilah and just kind of all of the implications there. Imogen wants to know, like, you know, after everything we did, like, why did you invite her back? And Laudna's like, I didn't like choose to. She never really left. And, you know, Imogen says that, you know, I can hate Delilah, but still love you. And I wonder if we can get rid of her permanently. But if we can't, like if getting rid of Delilah means getting rid of you, then obviously that's not what I want to do. And Laudna again just apologizes for everything they had to go through to save Laudna the first time from Delilah. You know, since that ultimately amounted to nothing, she feels terrible about it. And Imogen wants to know if she's telling the truth when she says that. And Laudna says, yeah, I mean, it's not like a one-way road. She feeds off me, I feed off her. I don't really understand how it works, but she's basically like always been there. And Laudna's like, if that's something you can't get past, but Imogen interrupts her, like saying that, and just kisses her. And Imogen's like, I will never let you go. And Laudna is like, well, I'm worried I'm holding you back from greatness. And Imogen tells her that's nonsense. If anything, like she's holding her from like the edge of a cliff, basically. You're the only thing preventing her from like not going off the deep end. And a great quote she says actually is, if you let me go, I'm gone. So great moment. Sorry, I lost where I was in my notes here. So at that point, the conversation basically ends, and they go meet up with everybody else. So in this meeting, Raishana asks the party, so what mission do you guys want to do? And they ask for a little bit more info. So some kind of basic mission details are given about each, and kind of an above the table thing. Matt is like, you know, this one would be good for stealthing. Like this one's good for, you know, high charisma, that type of conversation. And so ultimately we have Aurum, Chetney, Imogen, and Laudna decide to go on the infiltration team. And we have Ashton, FCG, and Fern going on the bomb team with Ira. So Ira is very excited that Fern is joining him, and the party tell her, you know, watch your back. So then there's kind of this moment where everyone's getting buffed up and getting prepared for each of their respective missions. And Team Infiltration gets invisibility cast on them, and there is this other spell that's getting put on them, but Chetney doesn't trust it. He's like, no, I don't touch me with that. And what it ends up being is sea invisibility. So everyone in the party can see each other even though they're invisible, except for Chet. And then after all these buffs and preparations are taken care of, they basically split and go their separate ways on these missions, and that's where the episode ends. Again, that is episode 89 of Campaign 3, Divisive Potence, one of the two. But yeah, if you're just watching the recap, be sure to check the description box below for our full discussion if you're interested in that. And yeah, that'll do it for this one.
Great job, man.
Jam-packed one.
That's lots of lore in this one. I don't know why I did this voice.
You sounded like a Brennan Lee Mulligan old NPC.
Being a Brennan Lee Mulligan, anything Brennan Lee Mulligan, I will gladly take.
I knew you would.
So, okay, so just for clarity, because actually, as you were doing your half, I all of a sudden was like, wait a second, did I get this backwards?
I probably did.
Well, the infiltration mission, is that the rescue mission or the scientist mission?
See, in my notes, I wrote infiltration, and now that was like 2 weeks ago, and I don't know what I meant.
Okay,
I wrote that.
I thought, I feel like I distinctly remember in the second half they wanted to go on the rescue mission because they realized the detonation would cause enough chaos for them to do the prison break, and there was conversation I think around Planesrider Wrenn. But now, as you were talking about it, I was like, oh yeah, Orym did want to do the scientist one, and they do want more information. And so now I'm like, well, wait, is that group going to check out the scientist or?
Yeah, actually, now that I'm not sure, because unfortunately, for whatever reason, I just wrote infiltration instead of being more specific on which mission that was. I guess at the time I thought that would make sense.
Dude, so
too bad crit roll stats doesn't exist anymore.
Crazy episode though, man. So much good stuff.
Yeah, and yeah.
This episode for me created the space for how this campaign could go another 40 episodes. Like as Matt kind of laid out the world and like the different entities and factions and stuff, I could definitely see a multitude of like storylines and you know, just things that, like I said, would create a little bit of spacing, I guess, rather than this ending in 10 episodes.
Yeah, actually I hadn't that thought hadn't condensed for me, but now that you say that, I totally agree because, and it kind of puts into clarity some of the previous, one of the big you just said it, the conversation we've been having for half the campaign now of like, how much longer could this go? Like, and the weird, I don't want to call it weird, but like, I know a lot of people kind of had this tension around like the Malleus Key episode when it first happened. There's like in real world, it's been over a year now. In Exandrian time, it hasn't been that long. Few weeks. Yeah. But people being like, you know, like, do they have time to goof around? Is this a counting clock and we're just waiting for Predathos? But now, like, that we're on Ruidus, it does kind of feel like this whole new like map that's been uncovered and there's all these things here to do. But on top of that, we know now that there is some piece missing. I don't want to call it that, but like there's not a countdown clock for Predathos. It seems as if there's a missing piece that's required. Now, if we want to, like, seemingly Imogen has a big role in it. Now, is that just because she's an Exaltant or she's more even special beyond that? I don't know. Anyway, I'm getting long-winded, but the point is I agree with you. I could see kind of like a whole Ruidus arc, if you will, which sounds obvious, but I mean like before the Predathos arc, there's kind of like the getting the lay of the land, like here's all the factions here, like, and the kind of Predathos thing is still this, whatever the missing piece is, like that's not here yet.
So yeah, I mean, we got some pretty big heavy hitters that would make for some incredible, like Ozo Kruth, the Sunder King. I mean, I was just like, that's cool. We got him. The Weave Mine, like getting more context around the Weave Mine. I just envision like this encounter with like all this incredible like psychic like stuff happening, and I mean, it's interesting. The power gap, I'm going to be, you know, a broken record. I always, every episode, there's like a new character introduced. I'm like, that character's too strong for them to face one day. But we still also have, what's her name? Thank you. What is this? Oh, thank you. Sorry, my wife just brought me some lunch.
You're good.
And some homemade banana nut bread. What up, playa?
Delicious.
But we still have, what's her name?
Odahan?
Odon. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Still have Odon to deal with too. So, I don't know, man. We could have just some really crazy sessions over the next, 20, 30 episodes. Or it could just be lore for like a future one shot, or, maybe they don't fight the Weave Mind, or I don't know, but
it could be, but I am firmly in the side of so this week is going to be episode 90.
Right.
I'm not looking at it, but I think campaign 2 was roughly 140 ish, give or take. I could see this being that length now. And which only I mean, of course they could always do whatever. And at the start of this campaign, they were like, be prepared for different stuff. So, but I do think this will be a normal length campaign. And I'm kind of just equating it to like a video game. Like, you think the moon is where the big bad is. So once you get there, you're fighting the big bad and it's about to end. And of course, hindsight's 2020, but now it just makes so much sense that, like, let's get to Ruidus, and Matt, as like the world builder he is, of course, is going to have this like sweeping like landscape and political intrigue and like all of these things happening there. So I definitely could see him wanting to like explore that a bit before you get to the meat and potatoes of Predathos, if you will.
Well, and Matt's, an old school RPG player. You think, I can't think of a good example, but like you get to a point in a game where you're like, dude, this is crazy. Like, we must be near the end. And then like you read on like GameFAQs or like some comment online that like, that's the halfway point. Yeah. And you're like, what? Yeah. But you're like giddy and excited of like, holy crap, there's still like all this stuff to experience. So
yeah,
I'm obviously supplanting that over whatever Matt has envisioned, but
right. I'm with you though. Like, that seems to be the vision, in my opinion. And not that, I mean, I'm happy to go ahead and go here, but we don't have to switch subjects yet. But especially considering like where this episode ended with seemingly a party split, like, are we about to get a similar thing to Team Wildmount, Team Asilra, or if we're going to go all the way back to campaign 1, a Slayer's Take party split where we had like 3 or 4 episodes with only half the table, probably some guest stars, and then 3 or 4 episodes with the other half, like that in and of itself could be 10 to 15. I mean, could be 10 to 15 episodes, could be 3. So I'm just curious, like,
I think people are hesitant about that. I think people, it seems like people did not like that the first time around in this campaign, or in the very least have a more negative slant against it. So part of me wonders, from a production standpoint, would they do it again? The other part of me is like, I don't think they give a rip, and it is the perfect time. I'd love some fresh blood at the table just to see who they bring in. So yeah, I could definitely see. I do think that if they do it again, this one would be better received, because it's a lot tighter, if that makes sense. I think the first one, there was a little bit of negativity, not towards any of the guest characters, but because it was like this really major moment, which was the Apogee Solstice, that then there was like a weird momentum shift, and there was just a lot of like, it kind of went on a little bit. And in this case, there's a very clear mission. We know where everyone is. We're building up to this break rather than it being a sort of a distraction of what just happened. So, I don't know. I think whatever they do, it's probably going to be pretty good. But I could definitely see a party split with guest characters.
Yeah, I agree that this one was, and I enjoyed, and I know you did too, the first party split. And I think especially in retrospect, a lot of people enjoy it more and will enjoy it more in terms of like a not watching week to week type of scenario. But so that being said, I think I agree that this one is set up better for people's expectations, and we're not shifting away from like the action, if you will. This is like just in line with it. So totally agree. And I think, I mean, barring some situation where something happens that immediately brings them back together, they're split. So like, I don't know how else Matt would handle, like, he's never really had a party split in this way where everyone was still just at the table the whole time, you know, because like it would easily be like you would either have to like people would sit there for an entire episode and not do anything, or you would like cut back and forth between two scenes the whole episode. And I don't really see either of those being the case. So I expect us to have a I know you didn't, well, you might have seen, did you watch up until the Slayer's take in campaign 1? It was pretty early.
I don't remember. I watched a little bit after them coming back from the Mind Flayer.
Yeah, the Underdark. It was like, did you see Felicia Day or Will Wheaton?
I don't remember.
Well, anyway, not important. But this party split feels a lot like that one. Like I would compare it to that one more than I would compare it to the one we actually got in this campaign. Because for anybody that didn't see campaign 1, no spoilers, but well, it already happened in the animated show, which I'm sure you guys saw that at least. But you know, they were at the Slayer's take, they had to go on like these bounty hunting missions. So the team split up, they each had a mission, they come back. I mean, it feels exactly like kind of what's happening here. So that's what I'm expecting to happen this week, and I'm excited for it because I would imagine there are going to be guests. I mean, I guess there doesn't have to be, but
yeah,
it seems
if
like
we got guests, who do you think we'd get? Any guesses?
I don't know, man. Like, because if that was the situation, then we might have like 4 or even more, you know, because I would imagine at least 2 per team. But what we had did we have 2 and 3 last time?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't imagine it would be any of those people. I doubt like that they would, I bet they try to get new people in. I don't know, man. I mean, I would love to see Brennan actually play at the table, you know? I don't know.
I'd love to get Anjali Bumani. And yeah, Brennan Lee Mulligan would be great. I'm just naming people that I personally like.
I was trying to think of people that like haven't guested before, but I just really don't know.
Yeah. Utkarsh. Can't think of his last name.
I had never seen him or something like that.
I had never seen him before. I thought he did great. So I'm open to somebody who hasn't been on it before. What a weird thing to say. I'm open to it. Yeah. I'd be excited. I'd be excited to meet someone new. But like getting like a Brennan Lee Mulligan, Lou Wilson combo, like they're a power couple. That'd be great.
That would be awesome.
So I will say this is like kind of unrelated, and it's not even really, we don't have to put even much stock into it, but I would almost even want Erika Ishii to have a chance back at the table. Because sometimes when you get to know some of these actors in other formats, like Worlds Beyond Number, and like seeing the brilliance of Erika Ishii, I feel like when she was playing you, the context didn't serve her brilliance as well. Like she didn't have as much. I mean, you're at a table with, 7 other people. So, and even having her come back probably still wouldn't create that space for her to like, be like a central character. But I think she's amazing too. So I would even be okay with someone like that coming back as a different character, kind of like we saw with Amy Carrero.
Yeah, for sure. There was, I can't remember the name of it, but one of my favorite one shots Erika's in. It's I can't remember what it's called. Something Hearts, and it like takes place in like a high school or something like that. But it's really good. It's like her, Taliesin. I can't remember, but you'll have to check it out. But yeah, I would love Erika to come back as well. Anyone from Worlds Beyond would be great. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it has to be happening, right? I mean, maybe they don't split or Matt does something weird, but I would almost bet anything that we're about to have some guests.
Separate from this conversation, I'm nervous about the party split, and the party even like pointed it out, like, hey, both of our healers are going with one group, and like resurrection magic presumably still doesn't work here. Like what is their plan? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's kind of it's very ballsy. So
yeah, that is a good point about the healers. I didn't even think about that.
I think they split up some healing potions, but still, very risky.
I wonder, and I wonder, like, what's Ira doing, man? Like, it's not a coincidence that he was the only one that survived the previous mission, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't earnestly expect Ira to kill half of Bell's Hells, but like, I feels like something could go wrong in that mission.
I mean, let's be real. Ira the kind of guy to leave you behind so he can get away. I mean, you know, he's like Shane from The Walking Dead of season 1, where he like pushed that other dude down when they were like escaping.
Yeah.
Or like shot the other dude. I can't remember what he did, but yeah, I could see Ira doing it. And also, I don't know if I'm buying the pure revenge angle. I am buying it, and I'm okay if that ends up being authentically what it is, but I still feel like Ira has an ace up his sleeve, like something else he's trying to do beyond just, I'm going to stick it to lewdness.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he looks weird, but he looked fey. Like, because part of me wondered, is like, is he from Ruidus originally? But he doesn't really look like a Rylauren or a Boromoto or anything. But it's also like, who knows what he could have been through in the past however many years. But I agree. I think the revenge on lewdness is part of it. But I'm also curious if maybe there's revenge like on the Weave Mind. Like, could he have been affiliated or wronged by them in some way, and that might be motivation as well. Like, again, I can't really make it make sense that he's Ruidian necessarily, but given all the history we got about Ruidus and how like there was these internal conflicts between the Imperium and the Collective, which I think was what was before the Weave Mind, right? Like, could he have been a member of the Collective and he like is, you know, wanted his get back ever since? Because you know,
he came to Exandria somehow.
Yeah, like, or just I don't know, or like, you know, I really don't know. Maybe. Like, could he have even been pre-Ruidus? Like, maybe he's as old as Lewdness and was like affiliated with whatever faction originally went up there. You know, like if there were some kind of like custodians of Predathos that like, you know, I don't know. Like, there's too many like kind of missing pieces still, but it would just make sense to me if like he was deeper connected to these things and like his vengeance was against more than just lewdness.
Wasn't there also like a comment about how the Weave Mind's always been there, like since day one or something?
I was confused because I thought something like that as well, but then I thought that like before the Weave Mind was the Collective, but maybe kind of both are true. Like maybe the Collective was like the power, but then they fell and the Weave Mind already existed and maybe they rose or something.
Yeah, I think he actually did say before the Weave Mind there was a Collective, but I think I took it to mean like before the Weave Mind as a power entity, there was the Collective.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I mean, clearly the Weave Mind are very old, and you know, I think Matt described them as biological designers who like their only job is to keep the Weave Mind alive, and that's why I'm keen to see them fight the Weave Mind, dude. Like, I just want to see what Matt like his. That's very good at like the disturbing, like, you know, all that kind of stuff. So just to see what he comes up with would be kind of cool.
Yeah, agreed. I just
go ahead.
I don't really have more to like unpack, but I'm just curious about this like tumultuous history here. Like, why was the capital city destroyed twice? Like, there's been this shift of the balance of power at least once. Like, were they arguing over Predathos? Like, was there one faction that was like, again, citing back to the creation of Ruidus, if there were these like original custodians that like agreed to do this for the good of mankind, like could their descendants have been like, no, like this is crazy talk, we're not ever going to Exandria? I'm completely making all this up, by the way, and like that could have been like the ideological debate that caused like, no, we got to get out of here. Or is it have nothing to do with that central question and it's just typical politics where like people vying for power? I'm just very curious.
I think it's very Matrix-esque, and maybe the whole like projection thing like has biased me to like tie it to it this much. But like, Kravirus itself being rebuilt twice just gave me vibes of the end of Matrix 3, spoilers, with or maybe it was the end of the second one actually, and talking to like the creator guy, whatever, where the realization was that I can't remember what the name of the city in the real world was called.
Zion?
Zion. How Zion had been basically destroyed and rebuilt a number of times, and every time like society like wakes up and like fights back against the machines, there's a rebellion, and the city is like allowed to like survive and restart until the cycle precipitates again. So I wondered if there was something like that, like the world as they know it is what's been kind of created and nurtured to look the way it does by the Weave Mind, or like the history of the world. And like as people eventually like find out the truth or get unruly or what have you, the Weave Mind sort of like wipes it all out and like hits the reset button, so to speak. It's probably an oversimplification, but that's kind of the impression I got.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see something like that. But why?
Yeah.
Like what? Because the Weave Mind, okay, the Weave Mind are directly in contact with Predathos, as we're told, right?
Right.
Kind of like, and then what was the other group? The Tectis? They were like the next level.
Yeah, I think they're like the everyday. It's kind of not really clear what it was actually.
Like, because I wonder, like, if that's true, like, I wonder how much agency Predathos actually has. Like, are the Weave Mind lying? Like, and that's just the way they have power in this world. Like, we are the ones who communicate with Predathos. And like, you know, is Predathos actually saying like, burn it down, we got to start over? Or is he just asleep and they are leveraging that power? I'm curious.
It's kind of Destiny vibes of like the speaker. And it was like, is the speaker really hearing from the Traveler? Or, you know, is it just their own motivations?
I would lean towards that it's not Predathos, but I don't know.
I mean, it's interesting. I think the distinction that Predathos speaks to people on Exandria, but not the people physically closest to him, is a really interesting data point. I don't know what to make of it.
Well, the only person we've ever heard him speak to would be Ludinus, right? Or is there anybody else?
Well, speak to in the sense of like exert influence with like Ruidian dreams, all that kind of stuff. And maybe the Weave Mind, maybe that's actually not fully the case. Maybe the Weave Mind like shields everyone from that influence and like consolidate it into themselves as like a form of power. Because I think Rashina even mentioned that like, or kind of implied that like the restarting of things was to like bring things under the Imperium, bring things under the Weave Mind. So maybe the whole thing's all about power and like consolidating power.
Yeah, I mean, I could even see, well, because so I think Ludinus in his initial like experimentation reach out in Meleismere spoke to Predathos. Like that's how he phrased it. Now, what is like? Did they have a conversation? I don't know. Maybe it was more of feeling the influence. But so that outlier aside, maybe Ludinus did speak to Predathos. But I would classify, at least potentially, all of the other influence, be it the Ruidus Born dreams or their connectivity or whatever. I could easily see that just being the Weave Mind controlling that. Like, you know, it's not necessarily Predathos himself that is like making somebody Ruidus Born or giving them a dream. It could just be all at the direction of the Weave Mind, because we do know at least they control the flares.
Okay, so interesting. So you think the Weave Mind are actually the ones reaching out to people on Exandria?
I think at least they could be.
Yeah,
because since we know that they do the flares, which is presumably how Ruidus Borns are born, if you're born under a flare, right?
Right, that's right.
So I could see them wielding this power. It's just the question is there any actual direction from Predathos for them to do that, or are they just doing it?
Yeah, Predathos is like super chill. And
like, just let me sleep, man.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know what you guys have been doing, but I did not approve of this.
Yeah,
you did mention. Sorry,
no, go ahead.
I was just saying, you did mention one of my favorite current theories from this episode, Ludinus and Melesmere. Have you seen this theory?
I don't think so.
Okay, so we were given a date on when the crush happened. The crush was three centuries ago, which put us in the late 500 PDs. And in 585 PD, seemingly lines up almost perfectly, is when Melesmere was destroyed from Ludinus's machinations. That feels like too much of a coincidence.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So it seems like Ludinus, in reaching out to Predathos, caused this cataclysmic event in Melesmere that destroyed Melesmere, and simultaneously spurred on the crush that wiped out the entirety of the surface world of Ruidus. Which means Ludinus has got some big my bad energy about him. So
which would make sense, because again, if he did speak to Predathos, however we want to interpret that, it could be that, you know, if he's literally, and we still don't know how to like really conceive of how he's trapped within Ruidus, but like if he's literally in Ruidus, then like Ludinus contacting him could have like caused him to stir, if you will, which could have shifted all the tectonic plates and like been the literal cause for the crush. So I could totally like see that happening.
And this has been mentioned a few times in a couple different places, but the one that I'm looking at right now is from Mr. Crap on Reddit.
Nice.
Just to give credit to that individual. But yeah, I mean, it's just more data around Ludinus. Just, I don't know, such an interesting backstory. And I'm very curious how, if Predathos prior to the crush was like fully sleeping, how did Ludinus, like, what were the means of reaching Predathos? Like, how did he?
I think we know, but I don't remember. He was experimenting, I think, with because Ludinus was researching all of this stuff from Aeor and the Factorum Malleus, which was like the god weapon that got Aeor destroyed. So I don't know if like there was some well of power beneath Melesmere, and so I think he was utilizing that. Like, I don't know if like as like a battery to like facilitate this communication. So I don't know, like maybe just some meeting of those things allowed him to make contact.
Yeah, I'm curious. You're right. There was something.
I'm curious if like,
okay, yeah, there was a crystal well of chaotic and expanding magical potential.
Yeah.
Some saw it as a divine blessing of the Archheart. Other thought it was maybe an arcane creation that fell from an old floating city that the city had been built on top of. Interesting.
Yeah. It does line up though. I'm curious if like, I mean, I guess the Weave Mind wouldn't necessarily know. Let's assume that's what happened. Let's assume that caused the crush. I guess the Weave Mind wouldn't know that necessarily, but you would think that they would maybe be upset. But they seem to be working hand in hand with Ludinus.
Right.
So maybe they don't know. Maybe it's not really important. Maybe they don't care, especially if they've destroyed the city.
They're like, hey, we had this horrible event. Oh, yeah. I hate that. I hate that for you.
I mean, could it even be that they are, like, if they are the ones wielding Predathos' influence, if you will, could they be manipulating Ludinus this entire time? Like maybe they caused it.
That's interesting, yeah.
Because what Liliana said about like, it doesn't matter if you take out Ludinus. You know, like it's bigger than that. Which, I mean, I guess he opened the door, so maybe like he isn't necessary anymore. Like maybe that was his purpose to like unlock the key to allow the connection between Brutus and Exandria. But I am just curious about like what their alliance is. What, like, are they on the same page? Are they using each other? Ludinus and the Weave Mind, I mean. And then not to jump subjects here, but also Sorrow Lord Zethula, which is something we've also talked about at various points, but he is seemingly has his own agenda too, because of that one conversation with Odahan where they were like, screw Ludinus. Like, he, you know, I don't remember what was said, but it was something like that. Like as if, you know, they didn't need him. They had their own agenda.
Right. Yeah, and he's overseeing the excavation that Fern is heading towards. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I will say, regardless of these missions, I mean, we can agree that the assassination is not going to be successful, right? I mean,
I wouldn't think so. You know, just
it kill off Liliana. You know, yeah, like, and your mom's dead.
Yep.
Yeah, like it's not going to happen.
Yeah. I'd agree.
So
would have been interesting. Yeah. I wonder what would have happened if they had decided to go on that one.
Yeah. Did you notice? I mean, I know you noticed it, but remember how coming out of her dream, Orym mentioned that he was like waiting with his sword drawn.
Yeah.
And brother's he's got that backup plan, man. Tell you what,
he's ready for action.
I think back to that scene where he's like, "I'm not worried about you, Imogen." It was like the most bold-faced lie. So, anyway,
I respect it. Which I'm just looking at my notes here. We already talked about this, but I forgot to add in this little note. Speaking of Ira, if he is somehow deeper connected than we're aware of, the Nightmare King title could be kind of like a big thing that was glaring in our face the whole time, considering like Ruidus and dreams and stuff. Like maybe that was his title related to those things even back then, and not just because he's a scary, creepy guy from Drusar.
Yeah, I totally agree there. There's got to be something more than just revenge on Ludinus.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just very curious about how all these people are connected, because Ira aside, because he's clearly on, you know, the rebel side right now, but just like Zethula, Ludinus, the Weave Mind, like Liliana to some extent, since she seems to have, like, she in her mind thinks she's doing the right thing, seemingly. And she's just kind of like, ends justify the means by working with these other folks. Like, I'm just curious what their own agendas all are.
Yeah. So the weapon that Everoa is working on, or the device, do we think this is a harness or something? Like, what would this device or weapon be that Ludinus would need?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. Maybe, like, because we know him to, well, we don't know him, I guess, but we presumed him to have a harness, a newer 2.0.
Right.
But if our theory that he might be wanting to harness Predathos is true, then he feasibly probably would need a 3.0 to deal with a god, as it were. So I could see it being something like that. Eva-Roa was she a Boromodo?
Yeah. Scientist.
So I wonder, like, if all of that is true, what the connection there would be. Like, maybe they are just like better suited to understand what everything on Ruidus. Like, maybe he needs an expert to kind of help him finish off. But if anything, if that was the case, I would think he would need like a Raylorin or like a member of the Weave Mind to help him.
There's no way the Weave Mind would want him.
Yeah, I mean, agreed.
You know,
which calling back to what I just said, like, do the Weave Mind? I mean, I guess we truly don't know what Ludinus wants to do. Like, he claims he just wants to set Predathos free. So maybe that's what he's telling the Weave Mind as well. And I guess he could secretly still have the plan to harness Predathos, and he's just keeping that close to the chest or something.
Yeah.
But if so, then I guess Eva Roa wouldn't be making him a harness because people would be like, what's that for? Or, you know, I don't know. I mean, I guess there could be any number of excuses.
It's like, oh, that?
Which this isn't super connected, but it made me think of it. I wonder if there's any significance to the fact that that central pillar has never fallen. Like they said, Kravirus was destroyed twice except for the central whatever. So I'm wondering if that's like directly tied to Predatos or something. Or what's up with that? Maybe it's where the Weave Mind are. And if they are causing everything, maybe you know, protecting themselves.
They said that the glass is kind of like it's natural and it's like pervasive throughout the city. So I mean, yeah, I guess it's like it seems like it's like the most organic's not the right word, but like fossil isn't the right word either. Like I guess piece of history of like Predatos and like the origination of Ruidus and all that stuff. So and this seems like the biggest source of it, the central pillar. So yeah. But so next step, we're gonna see party split. Could be both in one sesh, or it could be you know, just half the party. I guess we'll see. You guys have to let us know what you think is gonna happen. Anything else from this ep you want to talk about?
Do you remember what the colloquium of condescence is?
Condescence? It's the where the scientist was working, Eva Roa.
Okay. I just had that written down and I couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah. So many names, dude.
Yeah. Ridiculous. One other thing is, not that these are directly connected or anything, but it just made me think of it. Those like little mycelium
the
creatures. One, it reminded me of Matt's time on the Ravening War, where there was like this hive mind mycelium. So like, plus we have the hive mind aspects of the Weave Mind and Ray Lawrence and Predatos in general. But then it also made me think of the All Minds Burn and that hive mind and how it wants to be like planted here. So I'm just curious, like, how does that fit into this picture? You know, like, was the All Minds Burn originally from Ruidus? Which I don't know if we talked about that back in the day, but like, you know, I don't know. That just feels like that's another interesting piece of this puzzle that hasn't dropped yet.
Yeah. Or it could be like a backup from Matt's point of view to help the party. Like maybe the All Minds egg gets planted and it begins to like take over the hundreds of thousands of fungus, you know, on Ruidus.
That would be cool as like a
party or something. I don't know. So
that would be a cool way. Like, obviously things could go 1,000 different directions, but that would be a potentially cool, like, in terms of the power differential, like a way to like slightly even the playing field or something.
Right.
But yeah, I think I'm looking really quick here, but I think that was pretty much everything I had. I wonder what party we're gonna get if they do split. I wonder who we're gonna get first.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out soon, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's all we got today. Let us know what you guys thought of this episode, and we'll be chatting in the Discord on Thursday night with our watch party. If you want to watch along with us, we have our stream on Friday. CR to come after that, and then a week from Friday is our one shot. So make sure you're in the Discord for that.
Yeah, no, and nope, never mind. That's it.
All right, we'll see y'all later.
Bye, y'all.